Just running is hard. Running fast? Are you kidding me? No, thank you.
I am running a half marathon in March, and for that, I am trying to raise a little bit of money for charity. And so, to get the most attention and the most bang for my buck, I thought I have to crochet my outfit to run. I am a little bit worried that I am going to like grievously injure myself and all my skin is going to slough off if I try to crochet my outfit, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I have a couple of base layers chosen that are a good athletic gear, and then my plan is to make something to go over the top of that. Now, some other considerations were what yarn is going to work the best. So, my first thinking was acrylic yarn because it is incredibly durable. It can take a lot and still look completely brand new. But I decided not to go with acrylic because I have a really hard time getting a thin fabric with acrylic. I find that has a halo, that it's a bit fuzzy and a bit puffy, and that is not what I wanted. So then the next option would be wool, which is just a sort of weatherproof type of yarn, but I also find that that is quite thick and also can sometimes get a halo. It may also pill, and it may not be the most durable to repeated movements. Sometimes wool can sort of felt over, so all of your stitch definition goes away, which is not a big deal for this project. I think it would look kind of pretty if you could see the wear patterns on it, but I think it's going to be a little too hot. Wool is very breathable, but it is it's a thick, dense fiber. So what I landed on was cotton. And then I also got some mohair to add some little fuzzy details. So the plan is to make the blue colors into like a background and then have the text for the charity in fuzzy pink. Now, I have never made letters with crochet. I have a couple of options there, so we're going to brainstorm those. And then I also need to really brainstorm the design for the pieces that I'm going to wear because I really don't think I can just crochet like a t-shirt and leggings. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. As far as design features go, I need to be able to take it off and on pretty easily just in case I need to bail out during the run and take the thing off and then just put it back on for the, photo shoot at the finish line. So I am thinking that I'll go with a vest for the top that goes down to my waist, and then that will be what I'll attach my bib to when I'm running, and then that will also have the little graphic details of the lettering that I'm going to do. And then for the bottoms, I think the easiest and smartest thing to do would be to make a skirt, because the idea of having crochet in between my legs as like pants, I can see the blisters. I've never had blisters on my thighs, but I can see that happening. So I was looking up like running skirts and running shorts, and there's a couple of pretty cute options. The main one that comes to mind is that athletic skirt that Taylor Swift wore. That's that like lavender color, and I'll need to test out a couple of different stitch patterns for that. So there's going to be a lot of things that I need to learn in order to complete this project, a lot of things that I'll need to test out. I think that I will literally take out some of my outfits and go for a run in them to see how they do. And then some other considerations are other accessories. So a headband would be super cute, arm warmers, leg warmers, I don't know, a fanny pack. There's lots of other things that I can do besides just the outfit. A scarf, that would be cute and easy to take on and off. So depending on my yarn usage, I think it would be awesome to have some left over to make some little accessories. And my husband's going to be running the race with me, so maybe I can make him a hat or a headband. I think he would appreciate a headband. Okay, let's get started. So I'm running this half marathon for charity and to raise awareness for a disease that is very impactful to me and has impacted me for more than half of my life at this point. So I'm going to take the time to explain that to you all.
I have myasthenia gravis. It's a neuromuscular autoimmune disease that causes profound weakness and extreme muscle fatigue. My first symptoms were when I was 13 years old in my 7th grade science class, and I didn't get diagnosed until I was 18 and was ready to leave for college. When I got diagnosed, I assumed that my life was over, that I would not be able to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish, that my abilities would be limited, that my dreams would be limited. For a long time, I said that I would discuss my disease and I would make it a part of my story once it got bad enough where I couldn't do anything else. And I didn't know that my life could turn out the way that it did with myasthenia gravis. I had no idea. When I Googled athletes with MG, at 2 a.m. after getting diagnosed, just terrified, not wanting to go to school the next day, not knowing what to tell people, nothing came up. There was no articles, there were no celebrities, there were no people for me to look up to and see their story and say, it could be fine. And the past couple of years, I have been thinking more and more about how my story, these past 11 years and the past 16 to 17 years that I've actually had this disease, that's the story that I was looking for when I was Googling athletes with MG. I wanted to see someone who was able to do the things that I have done. And through reflecting on the things that I was looking for, it made me realize that I need to talk about having myasthenia gravis. Because as much as patients need to know that your life could be very limited, MG can be fatal, you need to take your health very seriously, it could also be just fine. That there is a lot of hope. There's more hope with myasthenia gravis than almost any other neuromuscular disease. It feels odd to talk about my experience as being very good because I don't want to undermine the experiences of patients who actually have a bad time with myasthenia gravis. I don't want to give the impression that MG is nothing to worry about, that it is not something that is disabling, because it is. And my case is the exception and not the rule for myasthenia gravis. So throughout this video, I will be crocheting a outfit to wear for my half marathon. Just this week, the fundraiser hit 100% funding, and my community was able to raise $3,000 for the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation of America. Because we did it, we raised $3,000. I'm going to run this half marathon in a silly outfit that I have crocheted for myself. And I'm very excited to do it. But more than that, I am very grateful that I am able to do it at all. So the point of this video is to raise awareness for myasthenia gravis, to explain the gravity of having myasthenia gravis and the need for a cure, while also showing other patients and newly diagnosed people that your expectations can never be too high. If you look your doctor in the eye and tell them, I want to run a marathon, I want to do a triathlon, I simply want to walk down the aisle at my wedding, none of those are too high expectations. All of those are a possibility. There is not a single person with MG whose symptoms are permanent or who can't get better, no matter how bad you get. The only thing that is permanent is death. And beyond that, every single patient can get better. And when we have treatments, everybody tries them. Some people get better, some people don't. And the only thing that is really going to work is a cure. MG can happen to anyone of any race, of any gender, of any age, at any time. I'm sure you can tell by my tone that this cause means a lot to me, and I do not make this video flippantly, and I do not support this cause and run with these letters across my chest flippantly. I feel the weight. I hope you feel the weight as well.
So here is my yarn stash. I definitely overbought, but I like to have a little bit of extra if needed. And then this is my process for figuring out roughly how to make letters. I have drawn what I assume a letter might look like in a crochet diagram, just using my best guesses. So when I needed a curve, I would do a V stitch or an increase to double crochet in the same stitch. And when I needed a straight edge, obviously stop increasing. And the process of trial and error went in my favor. Not that much error. The C turned out really cute. Obviously, one of the simpler letters to start with, but the size of it was right. The readability, you can tell what letter it is, which is surprising. So the letter U, you can see here, is a little bit short. So I had to redo it and make it a bit taller. And then that one was working perfectly. So this was the proof of concept. So then I went back and I wrote down exactly what I did for each letter so that if I needed to redo them for some reason, I would know what my starting chain was and vaguely what type of stitches I used. So you can see here the letter C used a 24 stitch starting chain and the letter U needed a 28 starting chain in order to make the same shape. And then I just went and counted how many V stitches I added or 2 DCs that I added. And then gave a rough count of those and where those would roughly be. So I went ahead and skipped the letter R because you can see my only note for the letter R is uh-oh, because the drawing that I did, I could already tell didn't work, just trying to conceptualize a diagram. So I moved on to the letter E, and I found myself relying on the skills that I gained and the experience that I got from making these crochet doilies that I found online. And the text on these diagrams is in some type of Cyrillic alphabet. I don't know which one. And that taught me how to kind of flip your chain and have it so that you have 2 stitches going perpendicular to each other. So that was a great skill to have and something that I had already worked on. It's always nice to see your previous projects and the struggles that you went through paying off later when you need them. So it's definitely a case of that. And then I had what I felt was a perfect letter E, except you can see that not all of the stitches are on the right side. So the back of the E is the wrong side facing up and the front of the E is the right side facing up. And that's just something that I'll have to deal with. I always prefer when my stitches are all facing the same direction, and it is not possible for this. So before we get right on to the problem child, I went ahead and grabbed my cat decoration off the wall to reference it to see if there was any wisdom from the elders within that would teach me how to make this letter R. There really wasn't. It was really helpful for the letter E though. So then I just had to wing it, and I started off with creating a normal back the same length of the E, and then decided to just try and do a little bit of a loop and crochet along that. Turned out great, but as you'll see next, the base of the R looked bad, looked terrible, looked like it was pinched in like it's wearing a corset. So we had to retry that one. And this was really the only letter that I didn't get in one try, which I am super happy with. It's so nice to be able to just get it done. Turns out the key was to attach it to the top of the letter R instead of having everything coming straight off the back of the R. And look at that. I think that is completely readable. I'm super happy with it.
So it's time to update for this project. So what I've decided for the next step is that this is going to be the back panel. It has these beautiful little windows. I had to alter it a little bit to make the fabric work how I wanted it. So I might try and write down what I did for a pattern, because the pattern that I based this off of wasn't working quite correctly. So I had to sub some stitches in order to get this exact look and kind of this flounciness and the even rows, which I'm very happy with. And then I'm working on what is now the front panel. And this is a lot simpler because it's going to be easier to sew on the letters. And then I just think a granny square is just iconic for crochet. So I did decide to go with something that is going to be very recognizable as made out of crochet. And this is also going to be pretty easy to do. I don't have to think a lot about it. And I can guarantee that, it's going to work. So once I have these 2 panels done, oh, look at them together. Once I have these 2 panels done, I will make a side, part for the vest so that it connects, and then 2 straps as well. And then that will be worn as like a penny for like a soccer game. Like they put on a penny that's just going to go over everything. And what I'll decide after that is to crochet the skirt onto the bottom of the vest so that it puffs out straight from there, or if I want to have a 2-piece. The benefits of having the bottom attached to the vest is that I don't need to worry about having something tied at my waist or to have some type of closure for that. What I would do is the saw method, so that it would be comfortable to wear. But having the like crochet fabric up against me, even like over my leggings, I can see that being uncomfortable after a couple of miles. And I learned this lesson when I ran my 10K, and I had my phone in a fanny pack that I had never used before. And by the end of the race, a 10K is only 6 miles. And my back, my skin hurt to the touch where my phone was bouncing up and down across my back in the fanny pack. And I learned that like you don't really feel it. It doesn't hurt. But enough repetitions of anything, like your hand's going to just fall off, your back's going to fall off, whatever you're doing, if you're doing it for long enough with enough repetitions, it is going to destroy you. And I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I think a good way around that would be to have the skirt just attached to the top. So that way all of the weight is here. And then there's nothing on my waist that's going to bother me. As far as my training is going, that is very unfortunately behind. And I have just accepted that I'm going to have a complete suffer fest for this run. What happened was our dog got sick over the weekend, so I missed a long run from that because I was completely sleep deprived and we couldn't leave the dog alone because he had to go outside constantly because he had just raging diarrhea. Very lovely. And then the next weekend, I went on a vacation to Nebraska, which Nebraska is not a place to visit in the winter for your outdoor running needs. It was -22 when I got there. And by the time I left, it was in like the 30s, but we just didn't make it. So that long run ended up getting pushed to a Monday, and I work a full-time job, so I'm not able to just go run for like 90 minutes. I can't even run for like 70 minutes on a weeknight. It's just too long. So I missed that one and had to cut it pretty short. And then I'm trying to ease myself back in to running. So last weekend for my long run, I did like 5 miles, which took me like 55 minutes, which is super slow. But I think I'll completely miss my time goals, which is fine because my time goals were unrealistic to begin with. And I may miss my goal to run the entire thing. I may have to stop and walk, just depending on what goes on that day. Hopefully, it will be like exciting and fun enough that I will, just have the spirit with me the whole time. I'll just be able to go. But I have accepted that, I am definitely going to finish. The only thing that would make me not finish is if my legs fell off. And barring that, I'm crossing that line. Oh, I probably should run today because I've got a date on Friday night. Yeah, I need to run tonight. So that's how training is going. I'm going to be working pretty feverishly on this for the next couple of weeks. And then I'm also alongside working on my dress pattern, which who knows which one of these is going to be out first. I'm wearing the same outfit in each video, and nobody knows, only God knows which one y'all are going to see first. So either hello from the future, hello from the past. So that said, I better stop procrastinating, better get the vest put together, and then have some decisions to make on the skirts.
So I spent the next week just making a big granny square. I also attached 2 flaps to each side of the vest to go across to the back, and that is also what I attached the straps to.
The vest is 95% there. I sewed on the letters, I created straps, I created some side flaps to connect the front to the back, and I think that we are just about there and ready to start thinking about the skirt. Let me show you what I did on the inside here. I decided to use these long stitches to connect the letters because it seemed like there was just less points of failure if all of them were connected like this. So each letter has its own string, and then I need to sew in the ends and all of that once I've decided that this is a pretty good method. The only one that turned out a little wonky is the letter G, but either I will fix that or just not care. I mean, this is me running. What are you noticing here? You're able to read it. You're going to think, huh, she sewed on the G a little bit wonky. I don't think so. I think I'm going to be great. So the back turned out lovely. The front turned out lovely. It really works, even though it's different types of stitches. So let me try it on. I tried to match my earrings and my makeup to this outfit. I'm pretty sure I nailed it. Again, I've talked about these before, but these clips are the bread and butter of crocheting your own clothes. Ooh, I don't have the flexibility for this. I sold my rotator cuff for an education. Haha, NCAA joke prior to the NIL contracts. Okay. Okay, close enough. A little wonky, but yeah, we'll get that sewn on correctly later. So this is what the vest is fitting like. To me, this is loose enough to be comfortable. I think it's going to work well. But so far, the fit, the readability, the colors, the design, everything is coming together very nicely. The only thing that I haven't figured out yet is how to / when to / if to decorate with my mohair that I have. I bought a couple of balls of this. It's the same color as this pink. And I decided not to use it to make the actual letters because I wanted some crisp readability and because mohair is difficult, if not impossible, to frog. And with a trial and error type of process like this, I just want to be able to include mohair. So we didn't. But what I was thinking was to add some ruffles or some frills around it just to give it some texture and some interest. But all of the stitches being in the same type of yarn gives a cohesiveness to what is possibly kind of a haphazard thrown together thing. And so the like coherentness of the design might be thrown off by something like this. It might be a little bit too much. In which case I will just keep that yarn and do something else with it. I'll make the waistband out of this pink and then just have the rest of the skirt be in the blue. And then I will be able to use the rest of the pink cotton that I have with the mohair in a different project. We'll just have to see. I'm going to have way more yarn than I need for all of this. And yeah, I love having extra yarn because it gives me more projects to do. So I will add a couple more inches of the blue, maybe just one more of this dark blue, and then start making a waistband, most likely with moss stitch over in the round here, and then start making the skirt, which the skirt, I'm thinking I'll just do granny stitch. If the bottom of the skirt has these little points like this has, then I think that that will be cute, or to flare out like this. This is kind of my vision for the thing in small scale. So from right here, this will be the top. Then we get to my waist, then it starts to flare out like this. And I will have a lot easier time doing that with a granny stitch than really any other stitch. I guess I could do that stitch. Would that be cute? That would be cute. That would be cute. Okay, we don't have to make that decision until after I've done the waistband, but now I am captured. That would be adorable. That would be perfect. Yeah, the only other design choices that I need to make are choosing my snowflake designs to use as decoration. The myasthenia gravis like mascot is a snowflake, and that is because everybody's symptoms are different, and there is no like MG screener where you can go through and say, if you have this symptom, this symptom, this symptom, then you have MG. It's such a different presentation in every person. Every person can have different symptoms. Every single voluntary muscle in the body can be affected. And therefore, there's basically infinite possibilities for what a patient's symptoms looks like, what they struggle the most with, what they have absolutely no issues with. It's so funny that I am able to do like more push-ups than I am able to hold my head, my hands above my head and braid my hair. One of these is a static hold, and the other one, technically you get a break, or each muscle group gets a break depending on where you are in the movement. And so I experience a lot less fatigue with stuff like that than I do with something that is a static hold, which it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's just how it is for me. Other patients, no matter what they do, they experience fatigue, and there's just no way to generalize and say, this is what MG looks like. This is not what MG looks like. So obviously with crochet, I have to make a couple of snowflakes to decorate. I was thinking it would be cute to have a ring of pink snowflakes around the bottom of the skirt as kind of like a ruffle. We'll see. Probably not. Most likely, I'll just do a couple that kind of hang off, or I don't know. The other thing I was thinking was I could crochet some pink snowflakes and then hand them out to people with a business card, like, hey, here's learn about MG today, learn about MG, because I never even heard of it until I was diagnosed with it. So it would be probably help a lot of people to hear more about what the disease is so that it is not a complete unknown. What is that? You can learn a little bit about it, which is also the point of making videos like these to share my story a little bit, share my experience, and also just show people who are newly diagnosed that yes, it's scary. Like you have this lifelong illness that can kill you, it can be fatal, but your life could be completely normal and no one would even know you had a disease if you didn't mention it. The other thing is with this design, I think it's turning out super cute. So if, depending on how good the final product is and how well it survives being worn for a half marathon, I may take the letters off and just wear this as like a cute little summer dress. I think that it would be adorable. I've got some work to do. We've got 2 weeks today. As of today, we have 2 weeks until the race. So I have got to get this thing finished. I've got one more long run. Ooh, I'm so excited. It's getting quite down to the wire.
So I spent the rest of the day connecting the two panels by just crocheting a row of double crochet along both of them and not sewing up the sides as promised to save that step for later. From this point, it's going to be fairly simple to just crochet the skirt in the round. The key is going to be getting enough volume to the skirt so that it doesn't restrict my movement at all, but not having it be too voluminous where it's going to be too much fabric going everywhere, going in between my legs, and getting in the way while I'm trying to run. I wanted to talk just a little bit about my experience with my symptoms. I would say 95% of my symptoms are in my face and my eyes, which means that most of the time I'm able to walk around and do everything that I need without feeling any symptoms at all. And my symptoms got a lot better about 2 years after I got a thymectomy at Vanderbilt, which is where they remove an organ from your chest called the thymus. After that surgery, I basically no longer had any noticeable weakness and I was able to chew and swallow my food more easily, and life just got so much better. Previously, my symptoms would cause me to have a grimace-like smile, which is characteristic of MG, and I also experienced a lot of double vision and drooping eyelids. So to treat my muscle weakness and make sure that I could see and swallow my food and chew without choking, I took a medication called Mestinon, which has a ton of side effects. It's a really tough drug to take. And then I also did IVIG, which again is an extremely intense infusion. Both of those medications have pretty severe side effects, and today I don't need any medication to manage my symptoms, which I am so grateful for. Today there are a lot more drugs on the market than were available when I was first diagnosed, and there's a lot that I haven't tried simply because I don't need to anymore. Regardless, it's still comforting to know that those medications are available because, like I said, there is no cure for MG, and even though my symptoms have gone down greatly, they can always relapse and I can start having severe symptoms again basically at any time. There's no way to know. One symptom that I still experience today is neck pain and back pain, which is because my muscles were too weak to protect my joints at certain times in my life. Pain isn't a direct symptom of MG, but it's something that I will be dealing with because of MG for the rest of my life, it seems like. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important for me to live a healthy lifestyle as much as I can right now to manage these lifelong effects of having MG. If there's anything else you're curious about, leave me a comment.
So it appears that the bulk of the work on this part is done. I have the skirt long enough and I can already tell that it is stretching downward from gravity, and the letters are distorting just a little bit from the weight of it and the fabric kind of settling in. My husband said the back looked really good. I have to agree. I love this granny square. Gonna have to use it for something else. The other options that I had was for the waist, which is just a little bit shapeless, would be to slip stitch in some elastic, which I have seen other people do. I have never tried it on my own. So I have this, like, I don't know, 1/8 inch elastic, which I could make a chain for and then connect it, which if I'm not going to do that before the race. I thought about it, and all I can think about is how that would just become a seam that is going to rub my skin raw while I'm running, and we're not going to do that. I am most likely just going to wear my fanny pack around my waist, anyways, so that will snatch me as much as I need. I need to weave in all my ends, make some other accessories, try out some snowflakes and things. I did make one, and the problem that I'm having is when I make snowflakes for Christmas, I starch them using a type of glue. And I don't know, y'all, where I come from, the word starch just means stiffen something. So the stiffener that I use, in my head, I'm always calling it, I'm starching it. And so in the past, I have used a glue or a fabric stiffener, but they're usually white. And so, like for Christmas, if you're making an angel or a snowflake, they're supposed to be white. So that's just fine. But for something that is colored, it is going to leave a kind of like grimy coating on it. And that's what makes it stiff. But I don't know how good these will look dipped in a white solution and allowed to dry. So I did make a snowflake, and I don't know, I just want to slap it on somewhere. I need to have a snowflake somewhere, but I don't know how to stiffen it. I don't know how to have them, yeah, keep their shape. So, well, I need to make some decisions. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm really happy with the picot edging. I think that they looked very cute. I also did that along the bottom, and I think the thing looks finished. So the last things for me to do are to weave in all of my ends, resew this, figure out what I'm going to do with the snowflakes, maybe make a couple more accessories, and then I think I'll be done. So at this point, I'm going to leave y'all in suspense, in anticipation for race day.
So here I am on race day with my little outfit, everything all put together. Everyone was so nice and gave me some compliments during the race, which helped a lot. And the race actually sent me this little finishing video, which I think is hilarious because it's not Rocky, shall we say. I had a calf cramp so bad, it felt like it had its own gravitational pull. And this was a complete sufferfest, but I jogged it in. We finished the race. You could see my finishing time there. And here's me after the race with my husband and my brother and my medal. I actually did it. I ran a half marathon. I was worried about being uncomfortable in my custom outfit, and I was right to be worried about being uncomfortable, but shockingly, it was because of the running. So this went great. I could barely even feel it. There's my little star, and it fared fairly well. You can see there's obviously a lot of strings poking out. Every weak spot that was in this garment would have been exposed at some point during those 13 miles. It was quite the race. I mean, 2.5 hours is a long time to do any type of exercise, let alone running. Probably the hardest. I think swimming would be up there. I'm pretty sure if I tried to swim for that long, I would simply be dead. And trying to run that long, it really felt like I was going to die. My calf cramped so bad at about mile 8, and it did not stop until I finished. And it didn't stop until, I don't know, probably 3 days after, to be honest. And it felt like every move, like there was just a black hole in there sucking everything in. And the only thing that I could do was keep running because I was worried if you stop and walk, you're going to cramp up more. And I did have to stop and walk. I had to stop and walk, but I got back going as soon as I could. So in that entire 2 hour and 34-minute run, I ended up walking, my watch said, for a total of 15 minutes, which is impressive because 10 of those minutes was me going straight uphill during this Terwilliger Hiller, which was unexpected, shall we say. And then I got my hips fully realigned when the road on that hill was like this because it's kind of banked for the cars. I didn't train for that at all. So I got my ankles rearranged, I got my hips rearranged. I mean, everything, every possible flaw that could have come out during that race did. It found a way to expose you. And honestly, that was really fun and exciting. And I really feel like there was not a single thing about me, mentally or physically, that was not tested.
and it makes me excited to someday run a full marathon, because I cannot even imagine. What people say about marathons is that a marathon doesn't even start until mile 20, or mile 20 is halfway of a marathon. And I just ran halfway of a marathon, and you're telling me that's 7 more miles, then like, oh, you really feel it then? Someday I plan to find out, but not for a good long while. Well, that is it for this video. I have plans to just hang this up and stare at it with my medal on top of it, just for, I don't know, how long do you get to bask on a race like that? Maybe a month, 2 months, maybe the rest of my life. To really find out who you are in that type of running, which I never expected. It's so hard to come up with like a thesis or like a takeaway from this video, because this is such a completely random and unnecessary thing that I have done for myself, and I can't expect that anyone will, you know, take away from this, oh, I'm gonna crochet my own marathon outfit. How cool is that? I think it turned out really great, and if you do that, you have to, like, legally, I need you to email me that you did it. I have to see what you came up with if anyone else decides to do this, but I don't really expect that, because this is not for the weak. And I'm just so glad that I gave it a shot and tried and put myself out there. It was really scary, and I'm alive. I did it. Well, if you enjoyed this experience, feel free to subscribe, but don't expect anything like this for a good long while. The next things I have planned, we'll see. I have a lot of yarn. I've got a lot planned, specifically this beautiful breath of spring. Oh my gosh, if you want to see me make more stuff, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn something about a disease that I have, that's very important to me, that other people learn about, that we raise awareness, and we someday get a cure. Okay, bye.